Welcome back, Ninja community and persons who have just become ninja enough to view my materials for the very first time. Congratulations on becoming ninja enough to view my materials. In this video right here, I'm going to be covering the Wrapshot, right? And some of its applications in real combat type situations. Right, this weapon here is called a Tonfa. I have some other videos on the Tonfa. You should probably go and check those out. But because I'll be covering some of the real world, real combat type applications of a Tonfa, I will run through my quality statement and disclaimer real quick, mostly to relieve me of liability, which basically means a lot of this is at your own risk, and of course that this is my intellectual property that I'm allowing others to view. So bear with me real quick as I run through it. And that of course is, the viewer understands my quality statement and disclaimer video. Additionally agrees that this video right here could be treated as is with ballistic protection, which in short means I don't have a seal on it, therefore don't get to the techniques and or your application of techniques. And if you're watching this video with the intention of using its content to commit a crime, that additionally is a crime. Actually using any of my content in committing a crime is an additional crime. Okay. So the Wrapshot, right, looks like this, right? And when you first learn the Wrapshot, right, you should probably work on the wrist movements, which looks like this. Breaking it down slower for you, right? So from here, from a vertical position, would look like I am turning to the side here and moving this way as a transition, or breaking it down into even a more simplified version is just letting that hang there and then coming here, right? Once you get the basic movement down, right, then you get into doing this movement, right, with the arm, like the whole arm. Okay, once you get there, then you can work into doing a correct technique, which comes from here, like this. Doing it a little bit slower is just turning it out this way and striking this way, right? The turn comes way back here, and the main force of the strike is right here, directly in front of wherever you begin, and that ends all the way back here, right? So it looks like this. If you notice, when I do the full technique, my arm, this hand, the hand, is back here guarding the hand, right? I'll break it down a little bit more here. Okay, as you see it again. Now if you miss that strike in a real combat type situation, right, you can come back with a pivoting strike this way, right? As in real combat type situations, that first strike doesn't always connect. Sometimes it's that second hit. So the reason why this Wrapshot comes this way, right, in a horizontal position, unlike variations for when they have ball bearings, right? The reason why it comes in a horizontal position, right, or a pronate, you notice my arm is in a pronate position, like this is pronate, supinate, vertical, right? Instead of doing a vertical position, that strike, you notice that vertical position, as if it was to have ball bearings, it would make the strike less effective. Whenever you do a strike with a Tonfa, right, you want to make sure that the strike is in line with the spine of the weapon, right? This is why a Tonfa This is one of the reasons why a tonfa is far more effective on a strike than one with ball bearings, right? If it had ball bearings, usually they're striking this way, as this is a fixed handle, right? This is a fixed handle tonfa. If they're striking this way, right, with ball bearing version, even a ball bearing version cannot do the amount of damage that can be done with a fixed handle with just a little bit more skill, but it goes more than that. I'll continue on with the Wrapshot, breaking down the Wrapshot. Now, another part of the Wrapshot that makes it pretty much a fundamental of the weapon is that the Wrapshot can be done from the drawing the weapon, right? If it was worn on the same side that you intend to use with it, that is where that Wrapshot, this is just in a regular belt, that Wrapshot can come straight out and go straight into the Wrapshot, right? Go straight into that strike. Other reasons why that my arm is in a pronate position, other than just that strike, right? Just making sure that the strike is in line with the spine, right? Is if my opponent had stepped in closer, this Wrapshot, this part right here, usually be hitting the side of my opponent's head. If they had become more aggressive and stepped into the strike, this might hit them in the side of the head, usually a knockout hit, right? So, even drawing it from that position. Also, if my opponent had blocked the inside of my arm, right? They're striking against bone rather than flesh. If someone were using a ball bearing version and they had swung it correctly according to a ball bearing version, that inside strike might cause the person who wields the weapon to not be able to throw effective swings with that arm, as well as not being able to hold their weapon. That is why a fixed handle is far more effective in the hands of someone who is skilled to use it. Okay. The other part about this is if it was a ball bearing version and they had stepped in, you would be striking with your fingers against your opponent's head, right? Which could still potentially knock them out. However, it's going to be very difficult to hang on to it after that. It's about as bad as being hit here, right? It's actually connecting here. Now, another reason is if they had blocked this strike from that initial strike, right? If they had decided to block, like throwing outward blocks, right? What I can do once this strikes is I can step in using this as a fluid weapon and strike them in the face. Even though it doesn't have ball bearings, right? And it's not striking this way, it does not interfere with the fluidity of the weapon, which was one of the main arguments I've heard people say about what makes ball bearing variations effective. I've even seen martial artist instructors out there, some of them, that teach this weapon, that have taught people incorrectly to throw strikes like this, even with a fixed handle, which is not an effective technique. And trying to find out where that actually comes from, you'd have to find out where in their martial arts lineage or changes to their policies where that ever became implemented, because it is just, it's obviously not effective if you are trained in the very basic fundamentals of this weapon, right? So, if a policy somewhere doesn't make any sense, you should probably speak up about it, right? Or a technique, you should question technique. Okay, so drawing into that strike. The reason the hand is back here I'll have to get to later, right? So, we've pretty much covered that this can draw into a strike, even a close range strike right here, right? And further away, as well as being a fluid weapon, right? Being able to strike my opponent in the face. Okay, it can continue from there, but I'm going to mostly just be covering the Wrapshot and some of the applications. So, another way that the Wrapshot can be utilized in a real fight, right, in a real combat type situation, is instead of striking with this part, right, with this part, or even this part out here, right, I can strike with the very end of the weapon, aiming at my opponent's armpit. Usually, that is the ideal place to hit, as a very fundamental of shinobi tactics, like real ninja tactics, is to destroy your opponent's ability to fight. Okay? This concept is usually done by, like, in a simple tactic, is just to strike at your opponent's weapon. If you break their weapon, or if you disarm them, you have used the tactic of destruction, right? Like if you're blocking a strike by striking against the strike. I cover some basic blocking in some other videos. You should probably go and check those out. But if you strike at the armpit, right, using the end of the weapon, if you can see here, right, like that. Usually if someone gets struck in the armpit, they're usually not going to be throwing very effective punches if they're going to be throwing any punches at all, right? So, these are some very fundamentals of this weapon that I'll continue on. That drawing from this position here, going into a Wrapshot, if it was closer, it would follow the front of the strike, which is drawing straight out. If this were held here, right, it is just drawing straight out. It is essentially a punch, and it comes out here into a horizontal position and strikes this way. If you notice, my hand would be back here, right? So, additionally, well, we'll talk about that drawing. Now, there are other ways to draw a tonfa. A lot of them do come from this side, and a lot of them are more effective. Again, if a technique or a policy doesn't make sense, you should probably speak up about it. Okay, if you wore this on this side, like the hand that you don't intend to use with it, that is much like using a barbarian variation. You're kind of training yourself to lose. Like if you saw this strike here, if you're striking like this, even your unarmed fighting is going to, your unarmed fighting is going to be affected by the way you use that weapon. And you would be, in fist fights, fighting very ineffectively. You would essentially be training yourself to lose in a fight. Like you'd be set up for failure. But talking about this, like if you was to wear it on this side rather than the side that you are using with it, the downside of wearing it over here is that like if you were crossing over, right, which is a bad idea. If you were crossing over like this, grabbing this portion here, you would wind up putting your wrists at an awkward position, making it very difficult for you if you were facing someone who actually knew what they were doing, right? So putting your wrist at an awkward position Like a real ninja could like easily snap your wrist at that point. Like, and if you were trying to draw the weapon into strikes, there's fewer strikes that can be done from that position. Even if you were to lower your body, like leaning forward, to not put your wrist at that awkward position, what you have done is you have lowered your body without keeping your guard up, which makes you very vulnerable, right? So even doing this, it also might imply that you were intending to use a different weapon that you might also have available, as you see that might be a completely different story, completely different situation. Now, if you were to have to use this, like if you draw with this across here, like that's still, there's still less strikes that can be done. Even drawn this way, this implies to a real shinobi or a real ninja that you intend to do lethal strikes with this weapon. If you had to draw it from this side, it would probably be better if you had to use the hand that was on that side to draw it here and keeping your hand up here, right? If you absolutely had to. Now, I would probably train to use, if I had to wear this on a specific side, I would probably train to use the same hand on that side, as that would be far more effective and efficient. Now, if you drew this and then you held it this way, if someone is holding a tonfa this way, it usually means that they intend to cause serious damage or break bones. I'm not covering those strikes in this video. There are some exceptions to that. It could easily be used as a choking weapon, right? Could easily be used as a choking weapon, like something that would choke, right? But additionally, if you train correctly on this weapon here, or if you are trained well on this weapon, then picking up other weapons is much easier, right? And has applications, has other applications. So if you notice that Wrapshot that I did, right? Like this, that Wrapshot. If I was using another weapon and somebody was showing me the application of it, right? That Wrapshot has a variation, right? The same goes for other weapons, right? If you notice that Wrapshot, my hand back here, this is where that comes into play. Is if my opponent had a weapon or a knife, right? Now that wouldn't be correct, but the way that you're holding your own hand here is, say I was training on knife fighting, I'm training myself to be prevented from being disarmed, as well as training against someone else who has a knife, as in that situation the arm would be the like my opponent's arm, simulated opponent's arm, as well as well, we'll talk a little bit more about that Wrapshot, right? This Wrapshot here. The unarmed variation. It would be much easier, like if I had some sort of Kubotan or what have you, like the unarmed variation might be here, but like if you did a hammer fist from this side, it's less effective than if it were on this side. But like a Kubotan version is pretty much the same, right? Even with a knife, it's pretty much the same, right? with bayonet type training, it's pretty much the same. It's easier to pick up bayonet if you are actually trained on this. Should definitely think about some policies here and there. But that Wrapshot being a fundamental of this weapon, a very basic fundamental of this weapon, and having its own unarmed variation, right? Even if you were doing a strike like this, right? Unarmed. A ball bearing version does not have as effective unarmed techniques as one with a fixed handle. If you are training with a ball bearing variation of a Tonfa, essentially you're training to lose in a real combat type situation. So if you've watched the video so far, you should probably hit like hard like a ninja, subscribe to be alerted if you want to do videos on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, and share. I think you can share this video with people who are ninja, but not with people who ought to be ninja, because they might accidentally learn something. So until next time, my friends, stay ninja. And of course you can find me on my Facebook under my artist name or my 10th ninja name, Mel-El. That's N-E-L-E-L. So like, comment, subscribe, share, check out the other videos. And I'm on Instagram, but you'll just have to be ninja and go figure that out on your own. So until next time, my friends, stay ninja.